Welcome to DM of the Mists, covering all things Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. See the occasional post on the Curse of Strahd subreddit where people say they want to run Curse of Strahd, but they don't have many sessions. Could be that they only have, say, 10 or 20. There's a date they have to end by. Sometimes they see examples such as a group about to start college, so they need to wrap up before that happens, or a group finishing college, they need to wrap up before that happens. I've even seen occasionally people who've literally only got 1 or 2 sessions. Maybe it's a long weekend away where they're going to try and do as much D&D as possible in that time, or a bachelor party, or as we in the UK call it, a stag do. Lads, etc. Bad news is you won't get the full Curse of Strahd experience. It's a sandbox with a lot going on and it can take a while to run. When I ran it a couple of years ago, it was about 70 sessions, albeit our sessions were a bit shorter. They were about 2.5-ish hours long. So it would have been more like 30 or 40 sessions if we'd had regular sized 4 to 5 hour sessions. But I've heard some people's campaigns with longer session times take more sessions as well. So it really depends on many factors, and I'll cover that later on as well. The good news is, even if you don't have many sessions, you might still be able to do stuff. Even if you only have 1 session, you might be able to run not all of Curse of Strahd, but at least a good part of it. So in this video, I'm going to explain how, starting with if you only have 1 or 2 sessions, then you've got a few more, maybe 3 to 10, then 10 to 20, what to do if you have to end a campaign abruptly, which is kind of what happened to me when I was running it, and then just other factors to consider. Your mileage might vary kind of thing. So first of all, let's talk about if you've literally only got 1 or 2 sessions. I've got 4 words for you. Strahd Must Die Tonight. This is a blog post on D&D Beyond, and it's essentially adapting Curse of Strahd into a one-shot where the entire thing is contained in just one location, Castle Ravenloft. It's a great potential one-shot for Halloween, for example. And Curse of Strahd's classic Taroka reading is focused on where the items are within the castle instead of all across Barovia. And you still get a fated ally, it recommends Irina, but the Taroka reading would tell you where to find them in the castle rather than who they're going to end up being. If you have 2 sessions or you're doing like a long weekend type thing, maybe you can stretch it out. More time to explore the castle before finding and fighting Strahd. Maybe do things like include the wandering monsters, the random encounters, which Strahd Must Die Tonight tells you not to do if you've only got 4 hours. And instead of things happening hourly, maybe you stretch it to every 90 minutes or 2 hours. There's also Strahd Must Die Again and Again and Again, and Strahd Must Die in Space, which I think are intended as sequels or variants or like remixes, if you will, of Strahd Must Die Tonight. So if you've run Strahd Must Die Tonight and want to run something similar again for the same people, you could consider that. I'll include links to all 3 in the description. Let's say you have 3 to 10 sessions. More time to do a little more, but not much more. In this case, I suggest just doing the Village of Barovia, Surpool Encampment, and then Castle Ravenloft. Just like the original I6 Ravenloft module from back in the day, the birth of Ravenloft and Barovia and Strahd and Curse of Strahd. Maybe have the western gates of Barovia closed, just in case your players attempt to travel that way, forcing them to just those 3 areas I mentioned. That gives you a couple of sessions in the Village of Barovia and Surpool Encampment, and then the remainder is in Castle Ravenloft, Strahd Must Die Tonight style. Let's say you have 10 to 20 sessions. This is where you can do a bit more, but probably not much more. The Taroka reading I mentioned earlier, items can appear in 3 places, plus you draw a fated ally, or Strahd's enemy is the official term, which is a potential 4th location if they're in a different place to the other 3 things. You can maybe rig the reading to limit it to just the locations you want to include and that you think your players will like, or maybe consider using the 3-pearl Taroka technique. This is something I made and put in DM's Guild, but remove some options from the piles to kind of limit it to the places you want them to go to potentially. And maybe focus on smaller and shorter locations too. You could consider something like 1 item in Vallaki, 1 item in the Old Bone Grinder, 1 item in Berez, and the ally is one of the Vallaki options. Or the 3rd item is in the castle, and they have to find it and attune to it before the final fight with Strahd. Because they're going to be going to the castle anyway, so having an item in the castle usually is a no-no, but in this instance could be a good idea. To be honest, a lot of stuff beyond Vallaki could probably be cut and be considered optional. I don't know how sacrilegious that is to say, but if you are limited on sessions, you may have to adhere to that. It'd be a shame not to include places like Argynvostholt and the Amber Temple, for example, but they're pretty big. Might take a few sessions just to fully explore those areas, and at least for the Amber Temple, it's quite far away to travel to as well. Some places can be left out entirely pretty easily. I'm thinking of places like the Werewolf Den and Van Richten's Tower. As for other places, various hooks are dropped. If you're running Curse of Strahd normally, various hooks are dropped by random Barovian people, Valachians. They might mention the winery, or Krez, because that's a small settlement to the west, or the nearby swamp, that's Berez. But just don't have them mention them. In other words, you as the DM, you're in control of the location and quest hooks that get dropped and fed to the players. Just don't mention them, and then the players have no reason to go there. And if a player's looking at the map and goes, oh, let's go to that thing over there, just have an above table talk to say, guys, listen, we don't have much time. You're limited on what you can do. So we're limited to just these locations, and hopefully your players will be cool with that and understand. I'm sure they'd rather that than have to like finish the campaign abruptly without, say, getting to Castle Ravenloft and defeating Strahd. Let's talk about other factors. Other factors that may affect how long your sessions need, how many sessions you need. It depends on session length. Like I mentioned earlier, my sessions were only 2.5 hours long. If you're having longer sessions, you can probably do more. If you have short sessions like me, you can probably do less. Number of players. In my experience, the more players you have, the longer things take as well. Which locations you decide to include. Even Vallaki has a lot going on, but I think if you are stretching it to beyond the 3 initial areas, Vallaki is pretty much essential, but Vallaki is pretty big. Can you cut stuff within Vallaki? The experience of the players, if they're brand new players, it may take a little bit longer as they struggle to learn the rules and figure out what's going on, for instance, in combat. The experience of the DM, same as what I just mentioned. You know, if you're new to DMing, it can take you a little bit longer to do things. I remember when I ran Lost Mine and Fandalva before Curse of Strahd, and I was stopping every 2 minutes to be like, right, how does this spell work? And what are we doing next? I probably wasn't that bad, but you know what I mean. And it also depends on what the players are like. Are they really role play heavy? Do they do lots of talking? Do they take a while to make decisions? Things like that. Your mileage may vary, basically. So if some of the above applies to you and your group, maybe account for that and just do less just to play it on the safe side. I always found with my Curse of Strahd group, which was 6 players before it shrunk a little bit for when we moved on to a wider Ravenloft sequel campaign, I always found that stuff took 50% longer than I expected. So I was preparing stuff, I was like, we'll get this far, and they'd get not that far. So if you have 15 sessions, maybe work on the basis you only really have 10 or 12, if that makes sense. It means maybe give yourself a bit of overflow and wiggle room. And what if you're mid-campaign and you have to reach a hard stop? And this happened in my game. Things were going well, and they were in the middle of Argynvost, and they were completionists. They also wanted to do Berez and the Amber Temple, even though they had no reason to go there. They already had all 3 Taroka items. But then 2 players who were a couple said, oh, we're leaving the UK and we're moving to a remote part of Canada where there won't be internet. Oh. And we're leaving in 3 months' time. Oh. So at that point, I knew we had about 10 sessions left to try and cram everything in. So we finished Argynvost, and what I had happen is I had a beloved NPC kidnapped off screen by Strahd, taken to Castle Ravenloft. So they knew at that point, right, we have to go to Castle Ravenloft for the end game and the final standoff against Strahd. And we literally just finished it in time. I remember our sessions finished at 10 o'clock in the evening, and at 10 to 10, 5 to 10, I was just finishing off the epilogue. And with minutes to spare, and their flight was 2 days later. It was perfect, and got very lucky that we just managed to squeeze it in time. So that would be my advice. If you find yourself in that situation, to just try and streamline everything to the castle. I got lucky in that they had about 10 sessions left. I've heard of some stories where people say, I've got 3 sessions left. You literally have to get them to the castle and maybe activate the fight with Strahd pretty much straight away. What do you think? Let me know in the comments if you have any further ideas or thoughts. Might help people out who are in this situation. I feel like this has been a really quick video. I feel like I've speedrun the speedrun video, but there's not a huge amount to say, but I hope it's useful for people. If you're new to my channel, I cover just Curse of Strahd and just Ravenloft. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I've also got a Patreon-style membership where you can get access to videos early. I do some members-only behind-the-scenes video or talking about D&D in general. And hopefully, if this is my first video, you can see the Curse of Strahd playlist, mine through all my old videos, of which there's probably over 50, 60, maybe 70 Curse of Strahd videos now, covering all sorts of different topics. I hope it helps you out in your Curse of Strahd game. And we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching.